Hey, happy Mother's Day to y'all out there, all your mothers. I'm a mother of 5, and I really don't like Mother's Day. A lot of expectations and, kids feeling bad for not doing more and parents feeling bad for whatever they feel bad for, which is kind of what I came on here to talk about. Though my mother did say to me today, I hope you feel loved and cared for. And I thought that was just beautiful, and I do. And a lot of that is because I started giving a shit about myself. And, I love God and I am here as a human and have a creator, but I had to give a shit about myself as a mother, as a human, before I could really make progress in life. So what I wanted to talk about was experiences that I've had as a mother where I was rolling in guilt and shame, and how I believe the system, the powers that be, wanted this way to F with us, to keep us cycling in these just not from being our best. So, and how that ties into the biodigital convergence agenda. It's just insidious. It's all rolled together once you see it. So I'm driving to see my daughter, actually, and this has to do with a couple of my kids. So when I woke up to the fuckery in the systems, with offspring with a rare disease that was diagnosed very early and required a lot of specialists and a lot of medications. I knew nothing about holistic practices. I knew nothing about the biofield, that we were bioelectric beings. I had faith. Somehow, I've always had a degree of faith. Though when I was on psych meds, I did feel like I lost my connection to spirit. I didn't realize it till after the fact, but that's another story. So, I have these kids, and they're put on a lot of meds, and you're chasing the doctors, you're chasing the dragon of the docs and the medical system and the hierarchy and all the time. So you really become hyper rigid about your belief system around that, and I get it, and it's why a lot of parents in the TSC community don't like what I have to say, and I wouldn't have liked me either. So it's all good. My heart goes out, because it is hard when you have a kid that has to see a lot of specialists and you don't know about a lot of holistic practices. This was back in the 90s when my first 2 offspring that had the condition were born, and things were a little different back then. So there wasn't quite the awareness there is now of all these other ways that you can kind of, what I see as, re-engage with your biofield. It feels like the breakdown of everything is the infiltration of our biofields and the hijacking and co-opting and removal of that from our medical system. And always knowing on some level that we're just treating these conditions at the level of physicality. And I've gone into that. So the story is, my son, in 2019, I got really into the cannabis industry, people using cannabis to help their kids with autism, and met a lot of wonderful people, interviewed them on my podcast, and I started thinking about taking my son off of his multiple pharmaceuticals and getting him more onto cannabis. And there's parents that do this, and they have amazing results. And they grow their own, and they cultivate, they make the tinctures, and it's really an amazing. I'll put some links in the video for that, because for some people this will work. But I thought it through. I didn't work with the doctors, because the doctors are really against it. And they're just very much in this paradigm, as you know, of physicality and looking at things on paper and not seeing the whole human. And that's what they were taught, and that's what they do. So I wasn't seeking out medical advice. I was doing this with the help of people, but not someone in the medical system. So I'm going to put that out there. And so I start going down. I know how to go up and down on meds. I've been managing meds since, now it's 30 years. So for a long time, managing lots of different medications, and I know how to titrate up and down, take somebody off a med. So I started slowly taking my son down on his meds, and he has seizures, and using cannabis, giving a little bit more. And this was I was using mostly CBD, but I started, there is a lot of knowledge that you mix a little THC in and it helps. It freaking helps. So I started doing just a little bit of that. I was giving him some edibles at night and it was helping him sleep. And he wasn't like puffing or anything, but yeah, that's what I was doing. And there was such a change in him. And now I know his biofield was he was far more engaged with all the other the dynamics of who he really is. And I saw that, and we had the most lucid conversations, but unfortunately, he'd been on medications his whole life, and he started to have seizures again. And so I had to go running back into the medical system. And one thing that happened, this is the guilt and shame. He was getting up in the night to go to the bathroom. And, I gave him just a little bit of edible, but it does make you sometimes a little floppy. And he fell and he hit his forehead at the corner of, and it's not funny, the corner of a door. And, this is like first thing in the morning and it's a bloody mess. And we had to go and get it stitched up. He didn't, hurt his head or anything, but he gashed himself. So he still tells that story, and it's just like this mark that he has that I failed at being able to get him more into a holistic practice. So I went running back into the medical system, hands in the air, please help me. You're grown-ass kids having seizures all the time. I couldn't pull olive branch. I couldn't pull something from the garden, give it to him, and help him. So here we are. And as a parent, it's just, I refuse to take on more guilt and shame for that than, yeah, of course I did. I felt terrible. And it just showed me, though, how frustrating it is to know that there probably is, well, for sure, there's a better way to do this than throwing pills and managing everything pharmaceutically, from, mood to just every single aspect of their lives. Meds have to be in balance. It's all like so regimented. So, and I am not a very regimented person. So that was a big wake up, like, shit, I can't do this. I can talk about it and teach other parents about it before they get too far down the road into the system when it's really hard to get out. And sometimes there's some conditions that people are born with, they might never have a chance to go at it holistically. And so what? But it does create more of a divide in society. When someone's telling you should take your kid off meds because they're in the truther community, and you're like, you have this whole history that they don't know about, and it can be very, very dysregulating. And I can see why some parents are like, hey, F you. I'm not going to do that, and I'm not going to listen to any of that truth, because they're, when I fell into more broadening my way of thinking from just being very in the system, in the program, you're exposed to a whole bunch of people that have a lot of really cool ideas. So you eat them up, but they can't all apply to you. And another situation I had with my daughter, who also same situation with meds and specialists, and her wanting to, do more holistic stuff herself, and having some restrictions because she lives in a group home. And anyways, I started doing urine therapy, and I think I've talked about that a little, and you can all get real grossed out, or you can go do the research. It helped me a lot. I'm not a super regimented urine practitioner anymore, but it did help me, and there's a lot of evidence that it does help. So, and it can help people get off their pharmaceuticals. So I thought, well, she could start this a little bit, and she was willing, and maybe she could come down on her meds. Well, that didn't work very well either, because when you start out with a practice like that, you're going to detox, and so she's detoxing off her meds, kind of, and anyways, it didn't work, and I had to go to a bunch of meetings with the people that are in charge of her care there, and really hang my head in shame and guilt as a mom. And I feel like these are some extreme cases. We are so set up to always feel that, some level of that, and then really realizing that it's no good. I'm not going to be functional if I'm walking around kicking my own ass every day. So I'm coming on here to tell you, if you can't do it perfectly as a mom, and you've messed up. I messed up big time, and I'm really lighthearted about it right now. But those were hard things to go through. I'm telling you. So I probably have more examples, but it does divide people in, the people that have their kids on meds and are following the rules and they're seeking out the best doctors, and the ones that have been able to kind of use the cannabis and manage things really holistically. And there's judgment on both sides. So I think that's part of this biodigital convergence. They want everybody so far into the more medical physicality that they forget that there is another way, that they have a biofield. So it's and at the same time, they're collecting massive amounts of data and massive pharmaceuticals around these conditions, market share. So there's that. And that's all I have to say. And I hope y'all out there, if you're a mom, if you're not a mom, if you're a human, you have a really good day in some way at some time.